What if I told you that this entire New World storyline that we just completed, the storyline that began in Punk Hazard with the alliance to take down a Yonko and just concluded in Wano with the defeat of Kaido and Big Mom, this whole storyline was in fact exactly the same as the East Blue Saga. Now, a lot of you might be rolling your eyes and thinking, look, lots of arcs in One Piece parallel other arcs. Thriller Bark has parallels to Wano, Alabasta has parallels to Wano, so on and so forth. But what I'm saying is different. I'm saying that all of East Blue, the entire first saga Oda wrote, was deliberately a micro version of the far bigger storyline of the New World. That his statement that he had the idea of taking down the emperors in mind from the beginning was in fact very literal, and he not only had that entire plotline planned out, he simply constructed East Blue as a miniature model of that bigger adventure to come, and I'll be breaking that down in today's video. So before we get into it, make sure to subscribe for more One Piece videos every week. And just as Momo decided to keep Wano private, so too can you remain private online with Surfshark VPN, the sponsor for this video. When you're online, you are at risk of having your data being acquired by companies or cybercriminals, but with Surfshark VPN, your data is encrypted. What does that mean? Well, it means that you are essentially completely invisible. No one can get your data, no one can track what you're doing, even Surfshark does not know what you are doing online. Not to mention, all ads and malware are blocked as well. And the best part is, with Surfshark VPN, you can change your location online to anywhere you want on the globe, meaning that you can virtually travel to other countries and get instant access to all of the free movies, TV, sports, etc. that they have available for streaming that isn't available in your country. So a whole new world of options in terms of what you can watch immediately opens up once you use Surfshark VPN, and yes, that includes anime. And for my viewers, you can actually get Surfshark right now, today, for 83% off and 3 months free, and antivirus for free by using my code MORGE. Link in the description below. And you get a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you have literally zero risk trying it out. Again, just hit the link in the description below and use my code MORGE. So that aside, when I say East Blue mirrors the New World, what do I mean? Well, specifically, I'm talking about the New World up till the point that we are currently at, Wano and the Versus 4 Emperors saga. After all, again, Oda said that this was the initial vision, the battle against the Emperors. So if that was what he initially had in mind, how did the beats of this whole storyline in the New World, from Punk Hazard to Dressrosa to Whole Cake to Wano, the storyline leading up to the defeat of the Emperors, how does that match up to East Blue? Well, it's actually the exact same beats of the story, just made a lot smaller and a lot simpler. There are 4 major East Blue arcs, as we know: Orangetown, Serp Village, Baratier, and Arlong Park. Now, this may sound a bit thin at first, but stick with me and it will begin to make a lot of sense as we move from arc to arc. It will be easiest to explain if we actually move backwards. So starting with Arlong Park and Wano Country, the parallels here are pretty clear. Both feature a quote-unquote monster that must be defeated, an inhuman creature: Arlong the Fishman and Kaido the Beast. Both are billed up as the strongest pirates, Arlong the strongest pirate in East Blue, and Kaido considered the strongest pirate in the world. Both of their crews are made up of inhuman monsters, with the Fishman pirates filled with obviously different types of fishmen, and even the monstrous sea creature Momu, and Kaido having the beast pirates filled with Zoans, Gifters, and the monstrous Numbers. Both have enslaved an island, Arlong having enslaved Kokoyashi Village, and Kaido having enslaved Wano. Both of their rules are marked by extreme poverty, with Arlong continually squeezing the villagers out of all of the money they have, and Kaido's factories allowing him to profit off the Wano citizens' labor while they are unable to get proper food and water. Both Kokoyashi Village and Wano Country have been suffering for a long time, while holding out hope for one possibility of being saved in the future. The Kokoyashi villagers waiting for 10 years, hoping for the day that Nami can buy back the village, and the Wano Country citizens waiting for 20 years for the day the 9 Scabbards will return and free the land. It should also be noted that both Arlong Park and Wano Country are the first and only arcs in their respective storylines that feature nearly all the Straw Hats getting fights, with Arlong Park being the conclusion to East Blue, and Wano Country being the conclusion to the entire New World super saga to take down Kaido that had begun with Punk Hazard. Even just looking at Arlong Park and Onigashima, we can see large structures that visually reflect the tyrants Arlong and Kaido respectively, that serve as their home base. So already we can see some striking similarities between the Arlong Park arc and Wano Country. But now working backwards from there, the previous arcs were Baratie, and look at that, Whole Cake Island. I don't think I need to say much here. Baratie literally plays directly into Whole Cake Island, with Whole Cake Island explicitly featuring many callbacks to that Baratie arc, bringing Zeph and Sanji's relationship back into play, and obviously both arcs focus heavily on Sanji and the sense of responsibility and burden of debt that he feels that prevents him from sailing with Luffy and the Straw Hats both times. And of course, both arcs have a heavy emphasis on food, but also on the theme of kindness. They feature villains with gigantic fleets, and most interestingly by far, there is one particularly crazy similarity, which is that both arcs focus heavily on the first mate of the enemy, a shadowy elite soldier who actually turns out to be extremely honorable and ultimately chooses not to continue the battle with the Straw Hats, but continues to serve under their boss out of obligation, Katakuri and Jin. If you think about it, across every single villain the Straw Hats have encountered throughout the entire story, the only henchman somewhat similar to Katakuri was Jin, a right-hand man who is far more noble and virtuous than their boss, and who seems like a respected leader in their own right among the crew, but who doesn't necessarily agree with their boss's actions and ideals. Even in demeanor and design, you can see striking similarities between the two, down to the weapons that they wield. And then working backwards from there, we had Syrup Village and Dressrosa. Here the similarities are all about the villain. Doflamingo and Kuro are both pirates that have quit being pirates. They are both characters that are obsessed with a sense of control. Doflamingo entirely focused on being this puppet master who is pulling all the strings, obviously in the New World at large, but specifically also in the country of Dressrosa. And Kuro is literally the pirate known as the man with 100 plans. He is all about calculated schemes and carefully plotted plans that go exactly his way. Luffy's final clashes with Kuro and Doflamingo both revolved around this idea of breaking free of their need for control, with Luffy proudly proclaiming that he will destroy all of Kuro's plans as he defeats him, and Luffy proudly proclaiming to Doflamingo that he will put an end to all of his manipulation and simply be free as he defeats him. On top of this, Kuro and Doflamingo are both villains that have fooled their respective islands into believing that they are actually really good people, with Kuro making everyone believe that he is simply a kind butler, and Doflamingo making everyone believe that he is a hero that saved the land. No one in Syrup Village believes that Kuro or Klahadore the butler is evil, just as no one in Dressrosa initially believes that Doflamingo is evil. Even getting down to the nitty-gritty, there are minute similarities, such as their signature glasses, and their cutting style of fighting, particularly with Kuro's shakushi, strongly imitating the visual fighting style we later get with Doflamingo's strings. So both Syrup Village and Dressrosa are all about taking down a pirate who has quit being a pirate, who has taken up a seemingly peaceful, carefree life on an island, and even though they have fooled the people of the island into believing that they are good, all the while they continue conducting pirate business. And they are most strongly characterized by their need for control and keeping everything going according to their plans and schemes, which are ultimately shattered by Luffy. Bonus similarities between the two arcs are that they were both extremely important for Usopp, with Syrup Village and Dressrosa being the most important Usopp arcs for East Blue and the New World respectively. And finally, if we work one more arc back, we have Orange Town and Punk Hazard. Here the similarity is clear as day. Buggy the Clown and Caesar Clown playing pretty much the exact same role at the exact same point in the story. Buggy as the first notable villain for Luffy in East Blue, and Caesar as the first notable villain for Luffy in the New World, both serving as pretty easy warm-ups compared to the following villains. And while they both initially at least seem somewhat sinister and even intimidating, after they are both defeated, they are both quickly turned into recurring gag characters for the rest of East Blue and the rest of the New World, repeatedly facing various humiliations and unfortunate situations. But more importantly, both Orange Town and Punk Hazard feature Luffy making an important alliance. Note, not adding a new crew member, but making a temporary alliance to sail together to further mutual goals, with Nami in Orange Town and Law in Punk Hazard. Both of these alliances are the start to a long plot thread to eventually take down the big bad villain at the end of the respective storylines, Arlong and Kaido. Meeting Nami was the first time we learned about Arlong, not by name, but as the pirate who killed someone dear to her, setting up the enemy that Luffy would one day take down. And as East Blue progresses, the Straw Hats get swept into trying to take down Arlong to free Nami's village, as she ditches them during Baratier to head back there. Obviously in Punk Hazard, Law makes the alliance with the deliberate intent from the start to eventually take down Kaido, but the purpose this alliance serves for the story is the same. Both arcs feature the Straw Hats making an alliance that sets them on a track to a final destination, which is taking down a big, scary, inhuman monster, the strongest pirate in their respective seas, that has enslaved an island of innocent people. It's just that East Blue is, of course, a much simpler version of future events, which is why this plot thread is a lot looser. An alliance is formed, not with the intent to take down Arlong, but it simply softly sets up this subtle running thread of Nami and her hometown, which ultimately is what the alliance leads to. Essentially, the plot thread to Wano and the plot thread to Arlong Park both begin in Punk Hazard and Orange Town respectively, on the back of an alliance. And here's the last little piece that I deliberately didn't mention this entire time, which is that there is actually one more arc from the New World that I haven't talked about yet, and that arc is Zou. Zou is a very short arc, really a breather between the other battle-intensive arcs, but what's crazy is that there actually is a very clear equivalent mini arc in East Blue, which is the Island of Strange Animals. It's so easy to forget, but there was a random single chapter in East Blue where the crew came across an island of strange animals. This was the chapter with Gaimon, if you recall. I didn't bring this up before because this is slightly out of order. The Island of Strange Animals comes before Syrup Village, whereas Zou comes after Dressrosa, but this small difference aside, there are some striking similarities even here. The Island of Strange Animals is of course an island of strange animals, and Zou is also an island of strange animals. The highest point at the center of both islands holds a great secret. In the Island of Strange Animals, when they go to this mysterious central point, they unfortunately find that there is no treasure there. Whereas in Zou, they actually discover the key to finding the greatest treasure in the world, the One Piece. Similarly, both sections of the story serve to reorient and establish key facts about the geography of the world and how to find the One Piece. The Island of Strange Animals is actually the first time the geography of the world structure is fully explained, and that the One Piece is hypothetically at the end of the Grand Line. And Zou is basically the upgraded version of that explanation, once again explaining the geography of the world structure, but now with all the new context and details, and once again explaining where the One Piece hypothetically is, just again with new context and details. Even just the relative length of these segments of the story are proportionally similar. Zou is significantly shorter than the other New World arcs, and the Island of Strange Animals is similarly significantly shorter than the other arcs of East Blue, to the point that it can barely be called an arc, it's just a standalone chapter. And again, they serve the same purpose. A little breather section of the story with no battles, just an exotic island inhabited by a unique species of animals with a mystery at the center, and mainly this section serves to be an exposition segment where we learn about the One Piece, how to get to it, and the actual geographical framework of their journey ahead. So overall, looking at this entire storyline of East Blue and this entire storyline in the New World up till the Versus 4 Emperors saga, and keeping in mind that Oda says that this Versus 4 Emperors narrative is what he initially conceived all those decades ago, do you see how he may have worked backwards to think up of the East Blue saga? It seems like he took all of the crazy big conflicts and storylines leading up to dethroning the emperors and just scaled them down to much simpler stories that are based on the same beats. Start off with kind of a joke villain, a literal clown. Have Luffy ally with someone that will ultimately lead to the final conflict of the storyline. Along the way, they take on a supposedly retired pirate that has fooled an island into believing that they are a good guy when in actuality, they are a manipulative schemer. They come across a peaceful island of strange animals where they learn about the One Piece and how to get to it. They come into conflict with a giant pirate fleet featuring a shadowy but honorable first mate, and the importance of food and kindness is emphasized. And finally, the initial alliance they made at the start of their journey brings them to an island of enslaved people ruled over by a fearsome, inhuman monster and his army of superhuman beasts. And they liberate this land, thereby concluding this long-running storyline. It's just that Oda took everything he planned on a grand scale for the final story and made a miniature version of it. But you can see how the simplified ideas in East Blue are seemingly derived from what Oda was thinking of down the line. And now the final thing you may be thinking is, wait Morge, But this isn't even the end of the story. East Blue concludes with Arlong Park, but the New World continues on after Wano. And yes, that's true, but after Wano concludes and the Versus 4 Emperors saga ends, we will be shifting into a new final phase of the story, which seems to be about freeing the world and bringing the dawn. It's outright stated that after Kaido and Big Mom, we are going to be at the finish line of the adventure. The One Piece itself is only a step away. And from there, it seems the story would pivot from an adventure to the great war for the world that comes with the finale to the series. That isn't really something I expect would be replicated in East Blue. Rather, the storyline from Punk Hazard to Wano, that is pretty much the bulk of the great pirate adventure segment of the New World, as beyond that seems to be a huge war to save the world. And I personally believe that, as Oda said, that taking down the pirate emperors was his initial idea, and we're seemingly about to complete this Versus Pirate Emperor saga, I think this whole storyline of the New World so far, of a long quest going from island to island till they confront and defeat the most notorious pirate emperors of the sea, this storyline, this grand, possibly final pirating adventure of the Straw Hat crew, the adventure before the war, is what Oda chose to recreate in miniature for East Blue. So let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree, and if you enjoyed this video, then definitely like and subscribe, and you can support me on Patreon to get my extended thoughts on this and all future topics.